Well, if you love your flats fishing, this video's for you. Guys, I've got a great lure coming up this week. It's Australian made by Adam and Anna in Bundaberg. It's a beauty, and I've got a whole load of tips to go with it to help you guys catch your flathead this winter. Let's get into the video. Is that a fish? I reckon it is a fish. First cast with the little pristine pack. You beauty. That's what I wanted. Oh, it's a nice floody too. Sick. There we go. All right. Do you want to come up? Come up, mate, and have a look at this, folks. Yeah, nice floody. Well, that was first cast on that little pristine plastic. Beautiful. That's probably 40 odd, or maybe high 40s, I reckon. Yeah, probably high 40s. We'll put him on the mat and have a look. I don't know what colour that is, but I love it. It's the first one I've basically picked out of the whole pack. They look like a little bait fish. All right, let's keep going. Right, I want to get a gauge. I reckon that's probably 45, that fish. And I'll put him on my mat and just get a sense of how big he is. Do the right thing, mate. That way I can let him go too. Nice and easy. I don't want to get spiked. Play the game, mate. Play the game. Right up there. Yeah, 45. Yeah, over 45. There you go, beautiful. Play the game, buddy. There you go. Load up. Easy release. No spikes. Yep, got it. Oh, it's a nice fish too. Just dropped it over the edge. There's a little weed edge that runs along here. Oh, it's a beautiful fish as well. There we go. On the PT 75. Don't saw my leader, buddy. Oi, there we go, folks. That is the fish I'm after today, guys. Here to get a feed of fish. There's all the evidence in the world that it was right on the edge of a weed bank. Beautiful stuff. Get on the mat there, mate. Backwards, I don't mind. Where are you? Little over 50. You beauty. Get that hook out and get you back in the water. Oh, that was absolutely textbook. There is a tiny little ribbon of weed edge along here on the drop off, just at the right height, so at the low tide it's covered. And all I did was I cast up. We've got a bit more water in here at the moment. I cast up onto the mud, hopped it down over the weed and dropped it right down the edge. And I'm using my polarized sunnies to be able to see that. And the first drop within that much of the edge, just like a little bait fish that's got itself lost, and the flathead love that on a dropping tide. See if we can recreate it again. I can see this, I can only just see it. The water clarity as this tide is dropping is getting worse and worse. I can still just make it out. There's a weed edge here that's on low tide. It's still covered, but it's quite defined. It's only about 3 meters wide. But I reckon the bait use it to move up and down this system. The best part about that bite, it was a knock, a really solid knock that I felt, and when that's happening, my confidence goes right up because it tells me that, one, the flatty really wanted that lure, but I feel like that's a bite period happening. When you're getting those flathead that are crunching down on your plastic, it's go time to get a few more. Just going to move up a little further, see if we can get it done again. Every now and then I'm just tossing one up on the shallow edge. It's a still bait that can get around up there, and I reckon it's still worth having a throw over that. Yep, got it. Right off the bottom. Again, exact same spot about a minute and a half, 2 minutes later. Boom. Oh. You might pick up the colour of that fish. It's a lighter fish. It's come out a little bit further off the edge. So the flathead are changing their colour to suit exactly where they are. Whether they're in the weed or in the mud or the sand, they'll get their camouflage dialed just right. Here we go, get that off there. Come here, mate. I'll try and get that out of you. Quick, smart. Oh no, you're not gonna like that, buddy. Let me get that out real quick. Just go. Boom, that's it. There she is. He wants more of them, look at him. Came off the bottom. See you, mate. Now that fish came off the bottom, so there's definitely a bite going on. That behaviour for a flathead to raise up off the bottom, they're certainly keen. So it's all happening. This is good stuff. I'm loving this. All right, I'll give you a really good look at this now. The bite is on though, so I want to get back in there, but that right there, the little PT75 by Pristine Lures. I ordered these online this week after seeing Adam, who runs Pristine Lures. I think he's in Bundaberg. He makes these himself at home and then tests them in his in a little aquarium he's got set up at home. And when I saw the video of these little things swimming, I should give you a look at some of the swimming action on these. I thought, geez, they're going to be fire on flatties, the smaller ones. So pretty sure these little 75s, he's only just brought them out recently. The hundreds, I've fished with the hundreds before and caught a few on the hundreds, but the small bait today that these birds are picking at, I just thought if I can get a little lure with a great action in front of them, it's going to be on. That's what's happening. Let's keep this going. Oh, there's a fish. Oh, I reckon I've pulled up onto a little pocket here. There's birds everywhere and bait everywhere in here. So I've just thrown on this little PT75 by Pristine Lures. Is the perfect little bait imitation. have a look at this. There you go, take a look at that for a little bait fish. Got to run out tide. There's bait pouring around over the edges of these flats. I reckon we can get a few here. This could be good. Look at the birds. Yep, there's a fish. I think he's a bit heavier too, this one. He doesn't want to come up. Yeah, right off this edge here. Come on. Oh, don't know. But this is the kind of thing that you're looking for. Oh no, he's caught. He's caught it on the back of the neck. He's caught on the mullet. Oh, so he felt big. He was able to turn his head. I do not know how I got that done. Super sharp hooks, these Sharp Point Australia jig heads. They're sick. They're my favourite for little flathead now, these things. I've been fishing with them the last few weeks and they're absolutely fire. Really sharp, great finish on them. You can get them painted up in a whole variety of custom colours so that you can match your favourite soft plastics. I'll put a link at the bottom of this video on where you can get all these jig heads and where you can get these pristine lures. So you can just order it all online. It gets delivered. It's really good stuff for this flathead stuff. This time of year, little soft plastics with jig heads, 1/4 ounce and a 1/6 of an ounce in a 3/0 is what I really like. Where are they? Here they are. There you go. That's the stuff that I like to use for jig heads this time of year. Sharp Point Jig Heads Australia is who does them. You can get in contact with Simon and yeah, they're absolutely fire. They hold a PVC plastic really well, which is what these pristine lures are. Gobblers are the same. Yeah, nearly on again. The best sort of stuff that I like in terms of, in terms of just ease of rigging and thumping paddles is like a PVC plastic. The Elastec stuff will last a lot longer in terms of, it's not going to get bitten up, but in terms of getting a thumping action that calls the flathead in, Holt Productions, they all use that PVC plastic. It means you go through them, but boy do you get the bites. It's good stuff. Yep, there's a fish. Again, another one. Boom. He's taking that PT 75 all the way down. All the way down. Oh, it's so much fun, this stuff. School size flathead. How much fun. Oh, mate. Come here. Come here. How much fun is that? Oh, the bite is so sick. If you've followed my channel for a while, you'd know that I've got a crush on giant flathead, and I've been doing that stuff for ages. I've produced a DVD or a full-length digital download called Giant Flathead in the Shallows that goes through how to catch absolute monsters. But really, this school-size flathead fishing is where it's all started for me, and I love to come back to this stuff. There's so much to be learnt about chasing flathead, and you can do it chasing the smaller fish. You just get more numbers, so you understand their feeding patterns, what turns on a bite, how you can trigger a fish and that kind of thing. So getting back to doing it on the flats, on the edges, around weed, with really small plastics, boy, it's good fun. You learn a ton about flathead fishing by doing this stuff. I'm kind of looking for patterns while I'm doing this. There's lots of different options here. You can hop through the weed, you can slow roll over the weed, you can throw right up onto the sand banks. I'm just sort of ticking those little options off and giving it a couple of casts in each scenario. What's happening at the moment though, the bite that's firing, is the water's pushing this way over this massive weed edge, and it's when I bring it down and sit it on the other side of the weed, on the deep side of the weed edge, where these flathead are generally taking it, jumping on. So I'm just going to try and repeat that over the next 5 or 10 minutes and see how I get on. And those little flathead, they sort of give you an indication that there's a bite happening. And you can just sort of repeat the pattern and get through those numbers, and then every now and then a bigger fish will turn up. And on really light gear like this, I've just got 6 pound leader, 6 pound braid, 6 pound leader. Bigger fish is a real challenge to get in like that, because they can saw through your leader. So you can't really muscle the fish in on 6 pound. You've got to be able to play it and hope like mad that you pinned it in the corner of the jaw and it's not fully throated down, which is hard with a little plastic, because they're aggressive. The way they'll suck down a plastic makes for a lot of fun. Look at the birds. I'm hoping you can pick that up. The birds are a dead giveaway. As I was driving here today, down to the mouth of this system, I could just see the birds in hundreds and hundreds of numbers, which just told me that all this bait's just moved in here. There's a fish. Yeah. And the flathead had turned up to join in on the party. There's definitely a pattern here that's starting to play, which is I'm in about 1.5 meters of water, and I was fishing with a 1/4 ounce jig head, and I thought it was just moving too quick back to the bottom. The fishing time is the drop. So as it's dropping, that's the thing that's convincing the flathead to come over. So the first thing is the movement. There's another one. That's a trev. Of course, there's trevs in amongst all the bait. Sick. Back you go, buddy. Yeah, so I've changed back down to 1/6 ounce because it slows the fall. The rate of the fall is so important with lures. Just like if a suspending jerkbait is sitting in front of a fish, a slower fall to a flathead gives it more time to be convinced and then to come in and eye it in and smash it. If your lure's dropping too quickly, that can be the difference between only a couple of fish in a session and getting into double figures. So that's what I've done here. I've tried to match the bait that I hooked. I actually hooked some bait earlier today, and just by chance, and brought it in, and I've tried to match it here with this little PT75, and I reckon the fish think that it's a dead ringer. I'm trying to give it that time. I'm stimulating the fish by showing them something moving through the water like it's fleeing, and then that time on the drop is really what gets that bite going. And they're sort of smashing it either on the way down or right at the bottom. When it's gone back to the bottom, they'll fly over and jump on it, the flathead. Yep. Oh, just dropped it. I felt that knock. Came when the lure was right on the bottom then. Came over and knocked it, which to me says bite is on. Bite is definitely on in here. It's the benefit of having a really sensitive rod. You know, fishing with light line's a lot of fun because you can get further, you can get big long casts. But fishing with a rod like this 270M Zodias, this thing is so sensitive all the way down to the butt that you can feel, even with a slack line, you can feel that smashing of the lure off the bottom. That's what I just felt there. I felt him grab it off the bottom with the slack line. Just throwing in through this speckled weed here. I think what's happening is the bait is trying to get around, and as it's running over the edges of this weed, the flathead are just tucked in underneath the edge and they're smacking it as it comes over the side. So I'm trying to recreate that with my lure. Yep, got it. Off the bottom. That's the knock I was talking to you about. You might have been able to see there. in the slack line, I could feel the bite before I set the hook. So the yep comes and then the fish is on. You feel that knock. Now that is a small flathead, granted. I've got a lure the same size as this that captures the giants, but a fish like this can teach you so much about the bite. You know, getting into your flathead fishing, just starting with your lures, if you're only pulling those fish, it's still a starting point. And you can learn so much from these little fish, how they bite, when they bite, how long to leave the lure on the bottom. So getting numbers of these fish is a really valuable lesson. A lot of fun for kids, but I love it too. Absolutely no problems getting back to basics and working on this stuff. Getting a feel for what the cadence is of your retrieve to get the bite. Sooner or later, bigger models show up too, which is always a great part of the session. Great little bit of flow. It's a really tight area through here, but I reckon this is where all the bait's trying to funnel out right at the back of the tide. See if there's any. Yep, there's a flathead. That answered the question. They're sitting here smashing all the bait. You're guilty. Stay there, mate. I'll try and get this out of you. Quick, smart. There you go, buddy. I love it. I love these little. As long as you get that size right, which is what I've tried to just dial in on the last sort of hour or so. I was fishing a little bit bigger earlier today. I went right down small when I could see the birds. The birds would get diving down, coming straight up, and I couldn't see anything. So I knew that they were tiny, tiny little baits, and so I've dropped right down in size. And then that bite, the bites come on. So often it can just be the size. The fish can be here and they can be keen. They just need the right thing, the right time and place lure that matches what's going on. That's why you got to sometimes just get out of your own road, fishing your favourite lure or whatever, and really downsize or upsize, depending on the bait that's around. That's the answer. So often that's the answer. Now the bait fish that are getting through the system, especially during winter, a lot of it is this micro stuff. It's like 2-3 inches long, and the little flathead and the school size fish just gorge on this stuff. So a little plastic like that, that's got that reflective sort of glassy look about it, and then it fits beautifully to a profile on a jig head like that. These things are killer. The main thing is you just don't want to be throwing it on a heavy jig head that just rips it straight to the bottom. You want something about that 1/4, 1/6 of an ounce or an 1/8 of an ounce that just allows the lure the time to get down. But as with any soft plastic lure, when you're working it, you want to check that it's going to work on the way down. So the flathead are coming in, they're tuning in, dialing in and watching it, making the decision as it's dropping. Most of your bites for flathead are going to come right at the bottom of that drop when it hits the sand, or just before it hits the sand, so they'll collect it. So on the way down, it has to be working. So test it in the water. When you get your little soft plastics and you put the jig head on, just check it like unimpeded. Don't have it taut on the line and let it down slowly. Just see what happens with a straight drop. Slack line all the way to the bottom. And the other tip that I've got for you is when you're throwing it out there, when you throw your little soft plastics out there chasing flathead, especially on the flats, you throw it out, you clip the bail into gear, but don't start retrieving. Where that splash happens, the flathead dial into that, and it's a point of action that they're really attuned to. They can pick it up with their lateral line, and if you move that lure away straight away to try and wind in or collect all of your slack line, then you can pull the lure away from the fish. So one of the things that happens for me often when I'm chasing flathead is you throw it out, it lands, and before it gets to the bottom, it gets taken. That's because they've dialed in from that moment that it hits the water. So you want to let it fly through the air, clip your bail over. That'll collect some of that line and get you a nice close contact with the lure through a straight line, but let it sink unimpeded. It's a great play for catching flathead on the flats. Oh, just got belted. That's a better flatty too. A little bit more on that. She's perfect for the pan. That's it. Come down and have a look at this. He smashed that one. Come up here, mate. Oh, he's sort of mid-40s, I suppose. Right, there's the little lure that it's taken. These things are just killing it today. Little PT75 in that shad colour. Alright, this fish can go back in the water. Just gonna, really easy way to do this is on my brag mat, I reckon. Much quicker. Come on, flatty. Wet brag mat and full send. See you, buddy. Alright folks, well I hope you've enjoyed this video. That's the little lure there. I'll put a link down below on where to get these things. Pristine lures are also going to be at the Australian Lure and Fly Expo coming up on the 6th and 7th of July at the Fernvale Showground. So check that out. There's a whole lot happening this month and next. I've got lures coming. I'm at the Lure Expo at Fernvale. I hope to see you there.